most entrepreneurs go the wrong way about growing their business. Jeremy Jensen has the right way to grow your business. And what is it? It's to poach your competitors' top performers in order to grow your business. So what's so special about Jeremy Jensen is that he's the founder of Encore Search Partners, and he's a subject matter expert on the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and he has built Houston's largest privately held executive search firm on the foundation of his 7 core values: excellence, resilience, gratitude, professionalism, being coachable, meticulous, and competitive. The first question I have is, what's the secret to your company's success? And does that have anything to do with poaching your competitors' top performers?
Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu. Mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services.
Great. Well, first of all, it's great to meet you, Lily. And I think there's a long answer and there's a short answer to that, but I'm going to give you the short answer. The secret to our success is that we're just hyper-focused on becoming a better version of ourselves each and every quarter. And so whenever I started the business back in 2013, in the beginning, I was just hiring anybody that would work for me, right? I was taking individuals at the 50K, 60K level, and, as long as they were punctual, as long as they were inquisitive and had a mild level of intelligence, I could train them, right, how to be a revenue generator. And so those individuals helped us get from 0 to 5 million in revenue. But what I needed to recognize is that we all needed to level up our skills, our experience, our communication style, right? Because it takes a completely different type of individual that takes you from 0 to 1 million, 1 million to 5 million, and then 5 million to 50 million. So one of the things that we implemented in 2017 was EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And that gave us a tremendous amount of clarity on our mission, our vision, our values, and helped us identify the who in order to execute, in order to achieve our goals.
Thank you. Tell us some of your top 5 achievements very briefly that kind of leveraged your competitors' top performers, and tell us, like, in a numerical way, what kind of achievements you managed to do for yourself and also for other companies.
Yeah, so I think it might be easier to talk about myself just because it's all top of mind. But big achievements that we accomplished whenever we started winning Best Places to Work awards, and we started highlighting that through video content marketing on social media, right? Developing marketing and automation systems in order to get a big organic following on LinkedIn and Instagram, right? Some of the biggest achievements that I remember really high-fiving my executive teams when we hit $10 million in revenue in a single year, whenever we billed over $2 million in a single month, consistently making 7 figures in personal income. Obviously, that provided a tremendous amount of financial freedom and security for my family. But really, the biggest milestone that I have to go back to is implementing EOS. And then actually 2 years ago, we brought in a full-time digital marketing coordinator, somebody that was a skilled video editor, to not only publish the celebrations and the wins that our company was experiencing, but to also publish maybe some of the failures and learning experiences that we had in our industry, right? And so it's one thing to actually provide a great service. If nobody knows that you exist, right, it makes it very difficult to steal market share. And so whenever we brought in that video content marketing presence as an organization, that's really what led our ability to highlight our culture, highlight our people, and that created a massive amount of demand of more people in our industry wanting to bring on this.
Thank you. What are the top ways to source, poach, and retain top talent for large companies?
Yeah, so we work with some of the largest companies across a variety of different industries in financial services, law firms, energy, industrial, manufacturing. And I think one of the things that people need to recognize is there's no one silver bullet in order to go out and get the best talent. But I think the number one thing that needs consistency is you need to understand who is an A player in your organization, right? Because a top performer or an A player at Google might be a completely different top performer or A player that's at Nike, right? Or at Exxon Mobil or BP, right? So it's really important to identify what are the characteristics that make a rock star A player. And the way that we've been able to highlight that is what are our core values, right? Are these individuals living these values each and every day in their personal life, right? In their relationships, right? In their ability to accumulate knowledge and implement that knowledge in their career, right? But I think, EOS was a massive resource that we utilize in order to identify what are those core values. And then we do a good job of highlighting what is our mission and what is our vision, right? Why are we doing it? And what are we doing it for? And what does success look like to our organization? And so for any enterprise, whether you're a 10-person organization or a 10,000-person organization, if you don't have clarity around those mission, vision, and values, and you don't have the tangibles that identify what is a rock star A player, then you're just hiring a bunch of people hoping that they get along and hoping that they mesh. And I think that you and I both know, if you look at the sports world, right, teams with great chemistry are often better teams than just putting together a team of all-stars.
Yes. So I wonder, what are the metrics that you leverage in order to discover what kind of employees should organizations hire and how they would fit best in an existing team as well?
Yeah, so great question. I think that that's important for human resource teams at the company level to identify what are those metrics or key performance indicators that measure whether or not an employee is an A player, right? Sometimes, it has to align with their core values. So the metrics that we measure is their resilience, their gratitude, their professionalism, their coachability, their inquisitiveness, and their competitive drive, right? Those are the metrics that we measure. Now, as a recruiting firm, our 40 employees are tasked with going out and headhunting and poaching people for our clients, right? And so the metrics that we measure as a recruitment agency is, right, the ability to bring in your own clients. How many new clients are you bringing in on a month, right? How many phone calls? How much engagement are you getting on social media? What is your response rate on LinkedIn emails, right? How many submittals are you sending to the client? What's your submittal to interview ratio? What is your interview to offer ratio? What's your offer to acceptance ratio? And then, of course, how many deals are you closing and what type of billings are you originating for our firm, right? So I think it's important to have clarity around the data, because any great leader knows that you have to be able to measure it if you want to be able to manage it. And I think that we do an excellent job at Encore Search Partners in measuring our employees' success.
Thank you. There are some intangible elements, like, for example, let's say if you put me with a team that perhaps isn't going to make stuff happen, maybe very little will actually happen because I'm a creator. Okay. So, for example, I function really well when, let's say, I have a team of doers, because I come up with so many ideas and then they kind of like implement them, right? And you put, let's say, someone like me in a different team that is like a doer type team that kind of gets stuff done fast and so on. So you can say that my role would become really strategic, and then they would actually make me look really good, because then my billables will be really great. They will be sending all the emails. They'll be, implementing all the different processes that I know how to do. So I wonder, how do you measure those kind of intangible things where, will this person that has performed really well in a certain company, in a certain team, will they perform just as well in another one?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So we use two resources to measure, right, those doers and the creators, right? So we facilitate a Colby Index for our team members. And so like me, myself, I have a tremendous amount of quick stuff, right? So I come up with ideas. I don't need a lot of research, right? And I can execute very, very quickly without having to go deep into the minutia with regards to analysis. And so I know that anybody that's fulfilling projects on my team need to have a very high level of follow through, right? Because I lack follow through. I can start 10 different things, but I need somebody else to take them all the way to, right? Another resource that we use in order to measure people on their first day of work is we do a team assessment, right? And it's similar to a DISC assessment, but it measures, right, what is somebody's interpersonal communication style, right? And so there's togetherness, there's an enterpriser, there's an analyzer, and a motivator, right? And so I know that the motivators have a very different style than somebody who is an analyzer. And then people like you and me, Lily, we're enterprisers, right? That's typically what an entrepreneur is somebody that comes up with fresh ideas and innovative strategies, right? And then we hire people in order to execute our vision, right? And so with just being an enterpriser, right, it was very easy to create businesses from $0 to $1 million in revenue, right? But in order for me to grow from 1 million to 12 million in revenue, I needed somebody that was great at the execution. And so that's whenever I brought in a vice president who is now our president. His name is Scott Kelly. He's actually our EOS integrator. He was the one that helped us kind of put in the processes, the system, and the accountability in order to scale.
Thank you. How do you assess the fit between employee and organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest way is even though Scott and myself, we have very different styles, we have different things that we value outside of the office, but whenever you look at our mission, our vision, and our core values as it relates to the business, they're 100% aligned, right? And so, the very first iteration of our values that we created way back in 2017, right? Responsive and accessible, have a winning attitude, right? Exceed expectations, right? These are qualities that other individuals need to put a tremendous amount of focus on, because if they don't share those same values, it doesn't matter if they're a great cold caller, or they're a great communicator, they're not going to be 100% alignment with what we're trying to build. And so I think it's the ability to identify what are our values, what is our vision, the ability to articulate that and highlight it during the recruitment and interview process, and then have the discipline to hold people accountable to, adhering those values during their employment.
Thank you. How do you establish what it will take for a top performer to migrate from their current company to another one?
That's a great question. So one of the things that we do in order to attract really, really high performers from our competitors is we actually highlight the stuff that we care about, right? And so if I'm saying that inquisitive is a core value, I might tell a story on how one of our recruiters was super inquisitive, and then they solved a problem for their client that created revenue for the organization, right? If I know that coachability is very, very important to our success, I might create a video that's going to highlight coachability or professionalism or gratitude or resilience, right? And so what happens is when we're creating all of this content that is congruent with our culture, our competitors see that on social media, whether it's LinkedIn or whether it's Instagram, right? And then they naturally, organically, it piques their interest into where when they are experiencing some element of pain at their current company, right? Then we are top of mind to where they reach out and say, hey, Jeremy, are you open to grabbing coffee, right? Are you open to a phone call? I have an idea that I want to bounce on. Hey, I'm experiencing this challenge, right? And so quite often, we are actually courting really high performers for years before they engage. But it's that definitive moment, right? Whenever they have pain in their current employer to where they say, I think that I'm ready to talk to Encore Search, right? And I think that the dating world is very similar, right? Because, as long as we have consistency on posting what it is that we value, whether it's fitness, whether it's travel, right? Whether it's podcasting or emotional intelligence or being a great communicator in relationships, our audience follows that. And right whenever that girl becomes single, who does she think of? Right? Let me call Jeremy, right? But you've been planting that seed and watering that plant for years in order to qualify yourself as somebody that's going to receive that inbound.
Thank you. How do you manage to poach your top competitors' performance without getting them fired?
Great question. Well, number one, if you're a company that's looking to grow your revenue, right, there's several different ways you can do it, right? There's new marketing strategies that you can implement, marketing and automation tools, right? But the number one fastest way to grow your sales is to steal your competitor's top sales. And so when you say, how do you do it? The number one way to do it is call Encore Search Partners. We are skilled at making cold calls, sending cold text messages, emails, LinkedIn messages, and getting passive candidates that are not looking for a job. We're great at telling stories and getting those passive candidates interested in flirting with our clients. Right? So we still require our clients, right, to put on their courting hats and their closing hats. But whenever it comes to getting them engaged, you do it very confidentially, right? Those employees do not need to have a public resume on a public website in order to change companies. We go out and steal them through our targeted, integrated marketing approach on LinkedIn. So when you say, how do you poach them? Call Encore Search. We'll do it for you.
Thank you. What's the best way to retain the top talent you've managed to poach from your competitors and avoid that they actually return to their previous employer or to someone else? A little bit more.
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, I'm not in the retention business. I love turnover. I love it when there's turnover because it creates job openings for our recruiting firm to fill. I can tell you one of the ways that our enterprise level clients or clients at any size rather retain their high performers is number one, you have to be consistent, right? Not only do you have to say what you're going to do, right? This is our mission. This is our values, right? This is our vision. This is what we're working for. So I have to say it in order to get people to get on the boat with me. But I also have to do what I say that I'm doing, right? And so in our quarterly town halls, we actually have a PowerPoint that showcases the 10 things that we said we were going to do last quarter. And then we provide a tremendous amount of transparency to the team in crossing it off and saying we did it, or saying, hey, this is in process and this is the stage that it's in, or this is the reason why we chose to remove it. So I think it requires transparency. I think it requires consistency. I think that it requires paying people fairly, right? And then giving them recognition in the way that they need to receive it, right? We've all heard of love languages. My love language in my personal life is physical touch and words of affirmation. But I think that it's important to understand what are your top performers' work love languages, right? Because, Tommy may like words of affirmation, but that doesn't mean that Lauren does, right? She might want financial gifts, right? So it's important in knowing how they want to receive recognition.
What are the top perks, benefits, and salary increases that have worked in terms of poaching your competitors' top performance?
Yeah, and so, whenever you look at revenue producers, salespeople, right? And I say revenue producers because that could be lawyers, it could be wealth advisors, public accountants. They don't need to have the job title of sales. But I think it's important to compensate them on the right activities, right? And so I'll give you an example. We've successfully coached high-level performers that had 150K salaries as technical salespeople, right? And if they smashed their quota, they got a 30% bonus. And so now that person's making 195. But our clients are getting creative with their compensation structure. They may give them a 100K salary, then give them 20% of the gross margin that they originate for the company. So if that person originates $500,000 in gross margin, now that's $100,000 in variable comp on top of their 100K salary, right? And so I think it's important to recognize that money really is the motivator for everyone, right? Especially if they're in a revenue generating model. But it's important to know that money does not mean base salary, because there's a lot of really, really high performers that would rather get paid on their performance than just a really high guaranteed base. So do you have a recruiting partner that can articulate those different levers that you can pull in order to showcase to the candidate why it financially makes sense for high performers to take the role? And so money, freedom, flexibility, hybrid work environments, right? Flexible work schedule, making sure that you give the spouses the warm and fuzzies during the interview, right? Because we all recognize that spouses do have a tremendous amount of influence on whether or not, right, their partner do make job changes, right? And so making sure that you are uncovering all the potential bottlenecks throughout that interview process and getting ahead of it with potential solutions.
Thank you. Do you find that CSR, corporate social responsibility, does that have any impact in terms of managing to recruit top performers?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I can say is that socially conscious, organizations have a much higher susceptibility to attract, I think, Gen Z talent, right? And some of the younger millennials. I think that it's a massive component of, what younger individuals value in an employer, right? Is there alignment with their own personal values and their own personal mission, right? And so when you look at our why, as at Encore Search Partners, our why is to be the best, to close deals, and to make money, right? It doesn't say that we want to plant trees and save the environment, right? But if you want to close deals and make money, you can use your money in order to plant trees and save the environment, right? But I think that it's important to, if you do have a visible, socially conscious, right, social awareness, that you need to be consistent on actually valuing that and prioritizing. Otherwise, it's just going to fall on.
Thank you. Did you find that the entrepreneurial, entrepreneurial system,
EOS, yeah.
Does that work at all in terms of helping the company to achieve their goals?
Absolutely. Speaking from myself, right, we chose to implement EOS when we were doing about 1.5 million in revenue. We were able to 10x that over the last 7 years. And so I attribute, obviously, a tremendous amount of that to having the right people and the right seat on the bus. But EOS gave us the framework to provide consistency whenever it came to getting what was in my brain on paper, and then giving my chief operations officer a mechanism in order to hold me accountable to near-term goals as we build towards our long. So really, I think it would be wise to look at EOS as a toolbox, right? We still have to be the ones swinging the hammers, right, using the screwdrivers, but without the right tools, there was no way to build, right, a sustainable growing company.
Thank you. Where can entrepreneurs find you?
Yeah, so I'm very active on LinkedIn. My name is Jeremy Jensen, Jenson. I've got a little goat emoji. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, please shoot me a connection request, or if you want to shoot me an email, I'll be happy to reply. If you want to follow my personal life, I'm on Instagram. It's just my name, Jeremy Jensen. I'll be happy to connect with you there as well.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential, so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.